Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
Hey guys, Happy New Year. Thanks for coming onto the podcast. I've got a very fantastic guest for you today, Tarun Aleti. He's disrupting big and bulky logistics. He's the co-founder at PartRunner. He's also a pre-seed seed mentor, and he's an AI ML product and data specialist. I really love talking with people in the tech entrepreneurship field, and happy to welcome him to the show. So Tarun, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Christopher. Thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward for this.
Yeah, kind of tell people about your background and your story and how you got started.
Sure. So I moved to US like 10 years back. I moved for my master's. I did my master's from Northeastern University in Boston. Prior to that, I did my undergrad also from IIT Bombay in civil. So yeah, I think it was an interesting career choice for me. Like I moved from civil, I did construction management, but I started doing my thesis. I just had like a gut feeling that I need to move towards a data science. That seemed like a more natural fit than like a core construction projects. I pivoted my career early on to data science, and then I started working as a consultant. But then I wasn't really getting the satisfaction that I wanted from my job, and that's where I wanted to do something of my own, and that's what brought me till here now.
Yeah. And you've had a significant pivot in your career from data science to entrepreneurship. What were the key challenges you faced during this transition, and how did your background in data science and construction engineering influence your approach to building and growing PartRunner?
Yeah. So it's a very interesting question. The way the building a business is very different than, let's say, data science or doing a particular project, especially as an entrepreneur, especially as a founding team, understand all aspects of business, which is not just building technology or just building a particular feature. Like understanding sales, understanding marketing, how do those teams perform? What is their role? Where does accounting come in? How do you keep up financials? Like biggest learning curve that people need to adapt, or they need to I think sometimes you learn through the journey, or sometimes you can be ahead of it. So for me, that was a big gap that I had to really figure out how to get up to date with these kind of things.
Yeah.
On the other side, the plus side is because you come from such a data way of thinking, intuitive for you to look at numbers and understand the details of what is happening with the business.
Yeah, really fascinating. And kind of talking about so I love this idea of how you talked about this how this was a wiki for construction project. You brainstorm for your company, and I love this idea of wiki because you just basically connecting an ecosystem of architects, manufacturers, subcontractors together. And so I love that. And then talking about this idea of especially this big and bulky logistics industry, and it's just it's got the big trucks and everything. It's a challenging field, and you've learned a lot in the first 2 years at PartRunner. Can you delve into some specific obstacles you face in disrupting last mile logistics and big and bulky, and how you overcame them?
Sure. So the thing is, if you look at logistics, it's a very old industry. It's even if you look in terms of businesses that have been set up, it goes all the way back to early 1900s or before that, right?
Yeah.
People were always moving goods, right? Then it becomes industrial goods. Then it becomes like local shops, right?
Yeah.
So it's very easy to start a logistics business at the end of the day, right? All you need is a vehicle, right? And it's kind of similar to what Uber, it's very easy to start an Uber business in terms of business model, because all you need is a vehicle and you can just need to ship people. To understanding the industry, what type of demand, what type of vehicles, what speed, things on those side. Another part of it is if you want to create a disruption on top of it, it becomes challenging. It's like how do you build that enough supply and things on those lines, right?
Mhm.
So for me, I think the starting few years was really into that, really understanding which space we are in, who are the people we are talking to, because this industry is so people based and it's all like you need to build relations outsider. Even my founding team, like all of them were like just right after the college, deep pockets, not contacts. So we really had to build trust and things on those lines.
Yeah. Yeah, really interesting. Advice for early stage startups. You've had experience in advising startups, especially in AI and ML. And what are some common pitfalls you see in early stage startups, and share a few strategies to avoid these mistakes?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, like, I feel like, we tend, like, when we grow as kids and all, right, we learn, we keep learning, we keep learning. But I think at some point in our journey, at the teens or like post that, we stop. Like, we learn so much, we feel like we can start applying them, right? Because you go to college and you tend to use those skills in your workplace and you learn maybe a little bit of few things. But when you make pivots like entrepreneurship and things like that, you
Mm.
need to understand that what you know may not always be right. Like, you need to be very open minded about learning new things or making small pivots in terms of your business model on those lines, right? For me, I think that would be my main thing for early stage startup. Like, like sometimes like you raise money, you think like that means something. Small steps, like you really need to double down and understand like what are you trying to do, like, in
Yeah.
terms of your business, what your value bringing your customers, like, hyper focusing on those things. And these things like don't happen in a meeting or don't happen in a call. It's like continuous effort to keep improving. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that would be the main advice for whoever wants to get started there. Yeah.
Yeah. I find because, all these big they call them the big seven, or, and they're developing their own large language models, which is really interesting. And these large language models are actually going to be infrastructure, and they're going to be assets on which you can build and grow different applications. So find of talking about this basically, because I love this idea of cultural and immersion and educational background. And some of the top tech talent is from India and China and Asia, and so you came here for your higher education and venturing into business. How has that shaped your entrepreneurial journey, giving you unique perspectives? For all the interested entrepreneurs out there, we have a lot, people with similar backgrounds.
I think generally people, I have seen like, especially people who come from engineering background, they're pretty good problem solvers. Right? I feel like we tend to have a very good IQ in terms of solving problems and things on those lines. I think what we need to hone is more of EQ, like emotional part of it, like talking to people, like talking, like, just there's the other part of business, like, because
Yeah.
if you want to be like a great software developer or like, it's you could double down on what you have been doing. You just need to keep updated with new technology that's out there, which keeps changing. But
Yeah.
if you are trying to pivot into something like building your own business, then I think that is the big learning curve for especially Asians and people who come here in US, right? Because coming to US, you need to come on what you have done previously. You can't, no, you can't come to US for us. We can't just come here to start a business, right? Doing a higher study, and then you need to figure a way out to make yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And I noticed, like I said, some of the top tech talent comes from Asia. And then was ironic during the Trump administration was, he was trying to limit immigrants. But if you look at like Google, Sundar, and Microsoft, Satya, a lot of the top tech talent comes from. So why are you trying to limit, these opportunities and kind of insulate, like I said, the issues of meritocracy. So, and then I love this because my parents were immigrants too. They, this immigrant hustle, this mentality, just make do, achieve the quote American dream, if that still exists. But final question is the future of PartRunner and marketplace dynamics. Looking ahead, what are your strategic plans for PartRunner, especially in the context of marketplace dynamics, logistics sector, and share your insights on how to effectively build and scale a marketplace. Talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get first start with like PartRunner, right? So PartRunner, like you said, like we are trying to disrupt the last mile logistics, hyper focusing on the big and bulky sector. because a small parcel is pretty saturated. Like, it's like you have DoorDash, you have Uber, like, they all kind of move a parcel from house to house and all, right?
Yeah.
So where we are focusing on like big construction projects or HVAC units, condensers, right? And we are both, we operate both in US and Mexico. We operate both in US and Mexico. I think our goal is really to become one of the leading marketplace in LATAM. Uh, because we see that as a very emerging market. We have the first in the market advantage there. And I think that is the primary way in which PartRunner will be growing in coming year for sure. And in terms of marketplace, now this is a challenge. Like, marketplaces, I think one thing is like you bring up, right, the chicken and egg, right?
Uh-huh.
What I personally felt is like, I think every marketplace has its own characteristics. For me, chicken and egg is literally like demand and supply, right? What comes first? The demand comes first or the supply comes first? For me, supply comes first. Like, what I mean by supply comes first is like initially you tend to match each demand with each supply. You really want to find someone who wants to use it, right? Like at least, hey, can you get one delivery done? Okay, I'll get someone done, right?
Yeah.
Once you start finding those initial demand, the idea is you really need to understand how you can bring in more and more supply, because having more and more supply makes your demand have a great experience, like, especially in marketplace, because they have more options. They feel like, oh, this is not just one to one, like, I have 10 people I can choose from. So
Yeah.
in a way, if you are looking for like a very like you just started, maybe for you it's like demand. You really need to figure out where is your demand and those lines. But once you have a little bit of grip of your demand, knowing where it can come from, I really believe like you need to double down on your supply. Your supply needs to be like some multiple of your demand that you think is going to come.
Uh-huh.
And that is where people tend to go off track sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And kind of finally, how can people contact you, follow you, and find out more about you?
Yeah, they can reach out to me in LinkedIn. I'm very responsive there. And yeah, I think that's really the best way to reach out. And also they can check updates of PartRunner. They can track PartRunner updates in LinkedIn and Instagram and so on.
Yeah. Yeah. There, let's thank Tarun for coming on, and really interesting, insightful discussion. And with that, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Like, see you. Bye.